Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome back to this week's episode of Podiatry Marketing. With me today is my co-host, Big Jim Mack. How you doing today, Jim?
Getting bigger by the day. The muscles are just growing. No, but very happy to be here with you, Tyson. Excited to talk about this interesting topic and get your take on how the robots are going to take over podiatry and the rest of the world. So
So you reckon robots are going to rule the world? Probably like the Terminator.
I hope it's not the Terminator, but you never know, right?
So what's the topic? What are we talking about?
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about podiatry, AI, and this thing that's been around for a little while now called Chat GPT. There's a lot of automation and kind of ways that computers and machine learning and AI are kind of changing the way that we use different types of applications of daily life, whether it be a word processor or the way we go about our podiatry practice. Also, will see some changes, but you might have come across some of this kind of AI generated art, or there's been some kind of
Oh
AI
yeah,
generated text uh, kind of experiments, but it's kind of being worked into some different products these days that really kind of help facilitate, I would say, kind of like generation of content, but will with the kind of theory of like kind of you can save some time and effort by utilizing some of these kind of new tools.
yeah. I was only talking to someone yesterday, and they were showing me a particular program, and they said, "Give us some topics that podiatrists would normally write about." So I gave them a couple of topics, and they said, "And what type of people would be likely to read this sort of information?" So I told them the type of patients that come in. They punched a few things into this AI program, and it spat out like 35 different blog articles that it wrote. And so they started reading them to me. And I went, you know what? They're probably about 90% accurate. I said, all it takes is you to then, I also wonder, how many words did you want per blog article? And I said, oh, I get 320. And they, okay, so that 320 words on the topic for this particular person. And I read through it and I went, oh, probably only a few things I'd actually change just to make it accurate.
Yeah.
So when people are saying, oh, I don't know how to write blog articles, well, don't worry, AI can probably do it for you.
Well, technology's, obviously had a huge change on not only our profession, but also health in general, because, annoyingly or not annoyingly, like a lot of information about healthcare is now available through Dr. Google, right? So,
Yeah.
a lot of patients will come in thinking they already know what they have, how they should be treated. And you're just there to like sign the prescription or just kind of like double check that Dr. Google is correct. And while we don't want that to be the case, it can be there's just so many tools out there right now that utilize these kind of different technologies. And whether it be kind of that autocomplete. I don't know if you use Gmail, Tyson, but one example of this kind of like AI or predictive text finishing off your sentences, right? If I say like have a great, or have a, at the end of an email, say maybe great
Yeah.
week, great Monday. It kind of learns the habits of what you write, and then basically just kind of like gives you the opportunity to kind of like save you some time by doing that. Also, from a medical perspective, there's some different technologies now available where machine learning and kind of through optical sensors can look at X-rays. There's been some studies that say they're actually better detecting early stage breast cancer and some lung cancers better than radiologists. So whether we like it or not, technology is here to stay, and hopefully, by kind of partnering with the technology, our patients can benefit in a lot of ways. But I think it goes back to what you just said. Um, it's kind of a shift now, right? So, like, if you're writing an email or an article, you don't necessarily have to be the content creator or the generator of it. It gets you 80 to 90% of the way there. But it kind of gives you the opportunity now to be an editor.
Yeah.
In editing, whether it be looking at an X-ray to double check, or checking to make sure you didn't send some crazy email, or that this kind of AI writer didn't put some crazy stuff about how to treat plantar fasciitis in there. The human editor is still really, really important. I think will be for some period of time, but that's whether it be self-driving cars, the way you write a clinic note. We'll get into some more examples of some of this stuff that can be used, but it definitely is moving that way with a lot of different tools. There's one called Jasper.ai, which is
Yeah.
or Copy.ai or Copy. Like there's a couple of different kind of writing tools that are very popular now. And there's actually one from Google, actually a former Google employee. I think he works for, it's called OpenAI, but it's called Chat GPT. And basically, like you said, if you say like, what is the cause of plantar fasciitis, or you just type in a question, you say like, and we'll get into more specifics later, but it'll spit out something that's 80 to 90% of the way there. It requires some editing from you or from your staff, but it's pretty crazy some of the tools that are currently kind of coming into production.
Yeah, even you said before, there's two things. One about, machines identifying breast cancer and lung cancer, and they're doing it better than radiologists. And you can understand the benefits of that because the machine doesn't get tired. Like a radiologist, when they're looking at something at 8 a.m. in the morning, and if they're still there at 6 p.m., and they've been doing that for 10 hours, are they as focused as what they should be? And I've had x-rays and that sent back to us where there's an obvious problem and the radiologist's gone, all clear. And I'm like, yeah, and my anatomy was never the best, but I'm sure the fifth metatarsal was only one bone, not two, and a big split down the middle of it. And they go, oh, well, that was pretty obvious. I didn't think I needed to report on that. They go, well, no, you're paid to report. So a machine just does it. And but there was, on the other side of things, I saw a video on TikTok the other day, and it's someone who's using one of those self-parking cars, and they've got the hands in there like this, and the person's in the backseat filming it, and the car just smashed straight in the car behind them. And everyone in the backseat is cracked up laughing. And then the comment over the top was, the guy said, oh, I've got to contact the car company. They said, prove it. Prove it that the car did the wrong thing. But it was just, that's where they've used AI, like artificial intelligence to park the car for them. Didn't work.
Yeah, some of those cars have sonar in some ways. They're supposed to notice where those cars are in front and behind you. But I think it is one of those things you just, whether it be with a Tesla or it be a vehicle, a Gmail, you still have to kind of be in command, right? You can't fall asleep at the wheel, whether you're writing a message or trying to parallel park a car. It's really important that they can be powerful tools, but we still need to be in charge and be the editor and not just be reliant. Because if people are pressed for time, so hopefully this will save time and not make people overly lazy. There is some dangers maybe be a little too strong, but we can't be completely reliant on these different tools. But getting back to like the Chat GPT, so this is a kind of it's in when I'm recording this right now. It's in kind of a open free testing. So if you look up Chat GPT from OpenAI, you might be able to still use it. But like for a couple of examples, like you talked about, let's say what is the treatment for plantar fasciitis? It'll spit out 200, 300 words about that topic, or that's one way of doing it. Or maybe there's something you get in the US, it's not too uncommon to get insurances deny certain types of treatment or care. Maybe like, let's say it's a diabetic patient, for whatever reason, they're not allowing you to see that patient on a monthly basis to do they're insensate. They don't have any, basically they don't have any protection left in their skin. They're developing wounds or sores, and they need to be seen on a consistent basis. And maybe you get a letter from an insurance provider saying, "Oh, you can only do annual checks with this patient." Well, with this Chat GPT, you can type in, basically say, write a letter to Blue Cross and Blue Shield Insurance Company, include citations about what the importance of monthly diabetic foot screenings and checks for people that are insensate. It'll basically just like write out a very, very good letter with citations to like scientific literature within the copy, and provide the citations at the end. So, the American Journal of Diabetes or another type of, journal citation will be in there. I mean, it's not perfect yet, but I did a couple of these examples. And I thought that was a pretty interesting one. Another one too is maybe some of the templated things that you've done in the past are a little bit stale. maybe you have a thank you note or a thank you letter that you send to different clinics or other physicians that refer you patients, and you want to freshen it up a little bit. You can actually type in like, change the tone of this, like put in all that text and then change the tone of the following or rewrite the following. It'll rewrite that thank you note. And maybe if you want to make it a little bit more personalized, you can put in some stuff in there in the description. But we're really moving from like having to actually write the entire thing into like knowing how to make the right prompts and knowing the capabilities of some of the software with ChatGPT. There's more we can get into, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts and your questions about this, Tyson.
Well, I like the idea of it, and I can see it. It goes back to what you said before. A lot of this is it's saving time, and instead of us having to burn up, because I always think we only have a certain amount of mental energy. We have a certain amount per day, and when it's used up, we become we just get tired, and you don't feel like doing the work. So if you had a busy day with patients all day, you don't want to write the reports, or if you are writing the reports, it is a real struggle to write a report or a response to a referrer. So I can see the advantages of pushing a few buttons, making a few comments, doing the reports for you. That then the next day you can then come back to when you're very clear headed, just do the editing like you spoke about before and get them out there. So I can see it as a real time saver, and probably being more accurate, because sometimes when you're tired in your writing, you write rubbish. It's just gibberish.
I think it's an also opportunity too to like make sure whatever content you're creating, let's say on your website or on a social media channel or through some ads, it's also a way to kind of keep that consistent. Because, if you can say, you can type in
Mm,
things like, write a tweet about plantar fasciitis based off of this information. You just kind of like put it in there and it'll make like 140 or 280 word tweet, or like write a paragraph about this, or it's a way to like even condense some of the content you have. It's a pretty interesting tool to like, just make sure you're continuing to sending the same message on different platforms. And sometimes that can be kind of time consuming, I would say. I don't think it's like, it's not brain surgery or rocket science to like
yeah.
take a blog page and condense it into a paragraph. But if you're not consistently writing, I'm sure that this tool or other tools similar to it are going to save a significant amount of time, because it'll kind of just do it for you in a way. And like you said, you edit it and make sure it's accurate, both scientifically and grammatically. But that's something that can be huge. I know that a lot
Mm.
of people that,
Well, it's sort of like, I'll just interrupt there for a
yeah,
sec,
yeah,
but it's sort of like not
yeah,
Grammarly, Canva. When you're on Canva and you do some artwork, you might do a certain, uh, it could be a show tile or something like that. And once you do it, it says, do you want to resize this for YouTube Shorts? Do you want to resize it for Instagram? And when you say yes, it takes all your information there and it does move it around. And then all it really takes for you is just a little bit of tweaking, because it never moves it perfectly. It just moves it into where it should be. And then you just tweak it. So I would say what you're talking about is very similar with the writing, because when you said before about it can change the tone of a letter. So I assume if I met you for the first time, Jim, and I wrote a letter to you, it's going to be quite formal.
yeah.
But then as I get to know you and our relationship improves, then my response to you could be, I could say friendlier as time goes on, until I beat you and go, hey, big Jim Mac, how you doing? Here's another
Well,
patient for you.
well,
Fix them up.
well, that's the thing. I think a lot of people think, oh, it's AI or it's some like generated thing. It doesn't have, it's not personal, right? It's a cold robot kind of writing this thing. But I think you point out a really important part that like these things can change the tone and tell them. And that's
Yeah.
sometimes in a way almost more personal than you just like having this template you just send to everybody, right? And that after a while, after someone gets like the third or fourth, like kind of same letter you've given them. But if you can do this in 15, 20 seconds and really kind of make more of a personal connection with them and show not only your personality, but also just it's a level of warmth towards another person that people don't necessarily have the time for these days. And
Mm.
I would say also within an EMR, people have been trying to like voice to text dictate, have these like, bullet point, like kind of short code templates that just pop up with things. And maybe you're great with that, but this chat GPT can also do things like that. It can start off history and physical, can start off a progress or an operative note. So like I said, it's about 80% of the way there, and you have to make sure you put in the proper prompts to make it happen. But Chat GPT is one of the two things that I want to touch base with today about that. But I think it's a pretty interesting way to save time with text.
Yeah. Before you get on the second one, so it would also be like just intuitive learning, wouldn't it? That as you use it,
Yeah.
it's a little bit going to be a little bit time consuming, maybe at the beginning, just to get the hang of it. Then once you start using it, it's like the more you use it, the better you get at it, the better it gets to know you, and it changes. I've even found that like a simple program that's been around for ages, like Grammarly. You'll write something now. So, well, what's the context that you're writing this? Is this professional? Is it friendly? Is it supposed to be just informative? And they change words based on what you've told them what to do. Now, Grammarly's been around for ages, but it sounds like this is just going a whole. This thing's actually writing it for you, which is even easier.
Yeah, I
Grammarly
think
won't write it for you.
it's the writer near the editor, right? I think that editorial part.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people that don't like. I mean, I build websites. You coach. You write a lot as well. You've written books. So, like, I think sometimes when you're not in that kind of content creation, you see yourself as the writer, and then you write it and you just send it out. But there has to be kind of a thorough editorial process. And I would say that, like, while this can write this stuff for you, it really kind of emphasizes the importance of an editorial, like, time and commitment to making sure that it's really accurate. Because, like I said, it can do those things. We just want to make sure that it doesn't impose any kind of like potential harm or danger to those that read it.
yeah. Oh, and speaking of books, if you haven't got a copy of It's No Secret, There's Money in Podiatry, put that on your Christmas list for 2023 this year, and make sure somebody in your family buys it for you. There you go. There's a plug for myself.
Nice
So
plug.
So, Jim, when you write your book, you'll be allowed to do that too.
Awesome.
So, what's the second thing you want to talk about?
The second one is maybe something people have seen probably more. It's probably a little bit earlier. Obviously, it is a little bit earlier than this kind of like text AI. Is basically utilizing the creation of images through text. There's a lot of editors coming out now. There's ways to kind of upload photos of yourself or photos of maybe your clinic or you in surgery, and you can actually have these kind of like strong AI models create images. I still think, at least for right now, like authentic, real photos
Oh,
of
you
you
have seen that.
taking care of patients is probably steps ahead of what the AI is. But at sometime in the future, maybe, you know, let's say you can't get into the operating room. Let's say you like to do a lot of surgery for some reason. That's like kind of your specialty. You're in the OR, but either you haven't taken pictures there, you don't feel comfortable. There's probably a way that they can create an image with your photo of you doing like a foot surgery of like a composited patient. I mean, this is probably a few years down the road, but there are these open AI or these AI ways of creating images. So be aware of that. I don't really know if there's a real important thing that, I think, like you talked about in a previous podcast, like, if you're doing images and creating stuff for, graphic design, Canva's a pretty great way to do that. But I assume at some time in the future, um, a lot of things that you have to kind of manually do in Canva, you might be able to say, type it in, like, maybe you have to upload 2 or 3 photos in like a template, but like you said, just type in, say, or voice command, say, make me a, image for a Facebook post, or make me an image for a LinkedIn post, or, even with video, potentially, not only just still images, but there is a potential with, with video, say, you know, edit this video, take out all the ums and ahs that Jim says, and, all the horrible jokes that
All the
Tyson,
all the
horrible jokes that
all the
Tyson says,
likes, all the likes.
the
Well,
likes.
no, I've seen that. There was what's it called? I cannot remember the name of the program. I have played around with it, and you do the video like we're doing now, for example. Then you upload the video to the I think it's called, is it Ask Eddie? Ask Eddie.
I've used Descript that will remove some of these
Yeah,
filler words.
yeah. So you put the video in, then it gives you the transcript. You edit the transcript, and as you edit the transcript, it then edits the video for you.
Yep.
So it saves you having to go back and edit the video as well. You're editing the transcript, and as you edit that, it automatically takes it out of the video. So, which, geez, I tell you, I just edited a video recently, and it was very time consuming.
Well, one of those things they can do as well is, if you, with Descript, you can actually spend 10 or 15 minutes basically saying words. They'll record you saying specific words.
Yeah.
And by saying those, like, I don't know if it's 10 minutes or 5 minutes, where it is nowadays, but after you're done saying all of those words, you're actually able to type in words into the video editor. It'll sound like you saying those words without you, let's say bunionectomy. You never said bunionectomy, but they can make you say bunionectomy. And so if you forgot to say a word, or, instead of saying bunionectomy, you said like a million times, you can copy paste that into those spots. And yeah, like I said,
It'll edit.
we're getting a little geeky here, maybe a little bit in the weeds, but I think it is really important to come back to the fact that a lot of these AI tools, or the Chat GPT, or some of these image tools in the future, might save your practice time, save you time, but also provide a level of service and care that you currently can't, because you're under a time crunch, right? Time is that most valuable commodity or resource that we have. And I think it's important that, whether you use these in your practice tomorrow or 6 months from now, or never, you just need to know what's out there and where things are moving. And that's kind of, this might be a little bit more of a future forward episode, but I think it is important for people to know what's coming down the line, so you can be, like you talked about, not be complacent, and be proactive in your practice.
Well, the thing is, in a year or 2 years' time, they'll look back and they go, they heard it here first. Well, the
Exactly.
podiatry marketing, they'll go, geez, how advanced were these guys compared to everybody else on the market who had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is, I think it's just important to be, like last week's episode, we were talking about do less and do it better. Sometimes you don't, if you're doing less and doing other things better, you don't have time to try and see or keep up with what's actually happening in the marketplace, or what's new. You just don't have time to do that. And there's two things. I've got one friend who every morning wakes up at a particular time, and the first hour of the day, all he does is read articles on what's new. Like I just said, like Jim does. And so he'll read all these different articles just to get a feel of what's happening in the world. He does it for the first hour, and he feels that keeps him up to date with most of the changes that are actually happening. The second thing I was going to say is keep listening to this podcast, because you spend a lot of time, Jim, researching all this stuff. So while they're doing what they should have done, like last week's episode, do less and do it better, they then tune into here to find out all the work that you've put in, Jim, in the spare time.
Yeah, I try to help people kind of stay up to date as far as, what directions the profession might be moving. And, the questions you ask kind of help me solidify these ideas, try to improve my speech, say like a lot less. But, I enjoy these conversations we have. And if anyone ever has questions about anything we bring up on the Podiatry Marketing Podcast, definitely go over to our website, podiatry.marketing, ask us questions. Are there things out there you want to learn more about, whether it be in marketing or just in practice management? We're happy to devote a podcast to those different topics.
Well, Jim, I think that is about a wrap for this episode. This has been great. And the thing is, it's actually got me thinking a lot about different aspects of things I've seen in the past that I'm going, yeah, I need to look into that a little bit more.
Yeah, that's what this podcast is all about, Tyson.
Okay, Big Jim, I will talk to you next week.
Sounds like a plan, Tyson.